nothing is wrong with you. What feels like resistance is your inner world being restructured at a level you cannot consciously reach, where God does his deepest work. The subconscious mind shapes behavior, reactions, and outcomes long before a conscious intention is applied. Much of what you do, feel, and decide originates beneath awareness, formed by patterns that were established through experience, repetition, and emotional imprinting. By the time conscious thought engages, the direction has often already been set. The subconscious operates as a filter. It determines what you notice, what you avoid, and how you interpret events. This is why certain reactions feel automatic. They are not choices made in the moment, but responses stored and activated over time. The mind protects efficiency by relying on these patterns, even when they are no longer helpful. Behavior is often the result of subconscious agreement rather than conscious desire. You may intend to respond calmly, yet react defensively. You may plan for confidence, yet hesitate. These gaps reveal where subconscious beliefs are directing action before intention can intervene. Reactions reveal conditioning. The body responds to perceived threat or safety faster than thought can analyze. This is why emotional responses can feel sudden or disproportionate. The subconscious is drawing from past experiences to predict outcome and guide response. Outcomes follow these internal patterns. Repeated experiences often reflect repeated subconscious expectations. When similar situations produce similar results, it is rarely coincidence. The mind is recreating familiar scenarios based on internal models of what feels normal or safe. Conscious intention is powerful, but it works best when aligned with subconscious belief. Without alignment, effort increases and results diminish. This is why change can feel exhausting when only conscious willpower is applied. Awareness is the first step toward integration. When you begin to notice patterns without judgment, the subconscious becomes accessible. This awareness allows for recalibration. New responses can be practiced. Old beliefs can be questioned. The subconscious does not respond to logic alone. It responds to consistency, emotion, and experience. Change happens through repeated aligned action rather than sudden insight. This is why transformation often feels gradual. Understanding the role of the subconscious brings compassion. You are not failing when change feels slow. You are retraining deeply ingrained systems. Patience is required because depth is involved. When subconscious patterns shift, behavior changes naturally. Reactions soften. Outcomes differ. Effort decreases because alignment increases. The subconscious mind is not an obstacle. It is a foundation. When engaged intentionally, it becomes a powerful ally. By aligning conscious intention with subconscious belief, you create sustainable change that unfolds with stability rather than strain. Repetition, belief, and silent absorption imprint the subconscious more deeply than momentary effort or spoken resolve. The subconscious is shaped less by what is declared once and more by what is experienced consistently. It learns through exposure, emotional tone, and repetition over time, not through intensity alone. Momentary effort can create awareness, but it rarely produces lasting change. Spoken resolve often engages the conscious mind without reaching the deeper layers where habits and reactions are formed. The subconscious listens differently. It responds to what is reinforced, not what is announced. Repetition builds familiarity. When a thought, behavior, or environment is encountered repeatedly, the subconscious begins to treat it as normal. This is how habits form and how identity What feels familiar eventually feels true, even if it began as practice rather than belief. Belief amplifies repetition. When repetition is paired with emotional conviction, imprinting accelerates. The subconscious does not evaluate truth in the same way the conscious mind does. It accepts what is consistently associated with meaning or safety. This is why deeply held beliefs persist even when logic challenges them. Silent absorption plays a critical role. What you take in without active resistance often leaves the deepest imprint. Environments, relationships, and internal narratives shape the subconscious quietly. This absorption happens when attention is relaxed rather than forceful. This explains why change efforts that rely on force often fail. The subconscious resists pressure but responds to consistency. Gentle, repeated alignment is more effective than intense, but brief resolve. Imprinting also depends on emotional state. Calm repetition is more powerful than frantic effort. When the nervous system is regulated, the subconscious is receptive. This is why stillness and reflection are effective environments for change. Beliefs formed through repetition become self-reinforcing. They guide perception, behavior, and expectation automatically. This creates stability. But it can also entrench limitations if beliefs are unexamined. Transformation requires patience because it works at depth. Silent absorption allows new patterns to be integrated without resistance. Over time, what was once intentional becomes instinctive. Understanding this process removes self-judgment. Change is not a matter of trying harder. It is a matter of reinforcing differently. When repetition, belief, and absorption align, change becomes natural. The subconscious responds to what is lived, not what is proclaimed. Consistent experience shapes identity more than isolated intention. By choosing what you repeatedly engage and absorb, you shape the foundations that guide behavior and outcome. This is how lasting change takes root quietly, steadily, and deeply. God works at the deepest levels of the inner life, renewing what lies beneath awareness, not just surface thoughts. Transformation in God's economy is not cosmetic. It does not stop at behavior modification or positive thinking. It reaches the foundations where identity, belief, and perception are formed. Surface thoughts are shaped by deeper structures. When those structures remain unchanged, effort becomes exhausting. God begins beneath awareness because that is where lasting change must take place. He addresses the roots rather than the symptoms. This work often goes unnoticed at first. You may feel little outward difference while internal shifts are underway. Old reactions soften. Familiar anxieties lose intensity. Patterns begin to loosen quietly. These are signs of deep renewal, even if conscious awareness has not caught up. God's work beneath awareness is gentle and precise. He does not overwhelm the inner life. It restores Italiano. This restoration often happens in stillness, where defenses relax and resistance fades. Silence allows what is hidden to surface without fear. Renewal at this level reshapes. Desire. What once felt necessary loses its grip. What once felt unreachable becomes possible. These changes are not forced. They emerge naturally as alignment deepens. God also heals memory at the level of interpretation. Past experiences are reprocessed. Meaning shifts. What once carried shame or fear is reframed through truth. This healing affects how you respond to present circumstances. This deep work requires trust because it cannot be measured quickly. You are asked to remain faithful without visible progress. God values this patience because it allows renewal to settle fully. Surface change without deep renewal is unstable. God ensures the transformation is integrated. When the inner life is restored, behavior follows naturally. Effort decreases because alignment increases. This process also restores identity. You begin to see yourself differently. Not through striving, but through recognition. God's truth replaces internal narratives that once limited you. Working beneath awareness also protects you from regression. Change formed at this level is resilient. It remains even under pressure. God is not ignoring surface concerns. He's addressing them. At the source, what is being renewed now will influence every area of your life. You may not yet have language for what is changing, but change is occurring. God's work is thorough and compassionate. He renews the inner life so that outward change can be sustained. This is how transformation lasts. It begins where only God can reach and unfolds in time through alignment rather than force. Seasons of delay and repetition indicate internal rewiring and foundation-level transformation, not spiritual failure. What feels like going in circles is often the sign that deep systems are being restructured. Change at the foundation level takes time because it affects everything built upon it. Repetition is not regression. It is reinforcement. When lessons return, it is because the inner life is integrating them at depth. The subconscious learns through repetition. God allows familiar themes to surface again so that new responses can be established where old patterns once dominated. Della creates space for rewiring. Immediate movement would bypass necessary formation. God slows progress intentionally so that alignment can settle. What is rushed often remains fragile. What is integrated becomes stable. Spiritual failure would produce collapse and confusion. This season is producing awareness and endurance. You are not losing ground. You are stabilizing it. Even when forward motion is not visible, internal order is being restored. Foundation-level transformation often feels uneventful. There are no dramatic markers. Instead, there is quiet consistency. Old triggers lose power. New boundaries form. These shifts indicate deep change. Delay also refines trust. You are learning to remain faithful without constant reinforcement. This trust becomes part of the new foundation. It strengthens resilience. Repetition reveals what still needs attention. God does not revisit areas to condemn, but to heal. Each return allows greater clarity and gentleness. Progress is measured by depth, not speed. Internal rewiring requires patience because it involves patterns formed over years cannot be replaced instantly. God honors this process by allowing time. You may feel discouraged when progress seems slow, but slowness here is protective. It ensures that change is not superficial. Spiritual growth is not linear. It moves in cycles that deepen understanding. Each cycle builds upon the last. Repetition indicates maturation, not stagnation. God is attentive to structure. He rebuilds from the inside out. This method ensures durability. What you are experiencing is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of careful work. Delay and repetition are tools of transformation. They signal that God is strengthening the foundation so that what follows can be sustained. Remain patient. What is being rewired now will support everything that comes next. True healing, stability, and enduring faith emerge when the subconscious aligns with divine truth rather than conscious striving. Lasting change is not produced by constant effort, discipline, or self. It is produced when the deepest layers of the inner life begin to agree with what God says is true. Conscious striving relies on control. It attempts to manage outcomes, emotions, and behavior through willpower. While effort has a role, it cannot reach the places where fear, identity, and belief are formed. This is why striving often leads to exhaustion rather than peace. The subconscious shapes reactions. The forethought intervenes. When it is aligned with divine truth, responses change naturally. Peace becomes instinctive. Trust replaces resistance. Stability emerges without force. Healing at this level does not feel dramatic. It feels steady. You notice that you are no longer bracing for impact. Faith no longer requires constant reinforcement. Confidence rests quietly beneath awareness. God works patiently to align the subconscious because this is where wholeness must reside. Surface agreement without inner alignment creates conflict. When inner agreement is established, effort diminishes. Enduring faith grows from internal safety. When the inner life trusts God's nature, faith becomes resilient. Doubt loses authority. Anxiety no longer dictates behavior. This alignment also restores emotional regulation. Old reactions soften. Triggers lose intensity. You respond rather than react. These are signs of deep healing. Divine truth must be absorbed, not forced. God allows time for this absorption. Repetition, silence, and waiting all serve this process. When the subconscious aligns with truth, spiritual practices become restful rather than strenuous. Prayer shifts from asking to communing. Obedience becomes natural. This alignment creates stability because it is internal. External circumstances no longer determine peace. Faith remains intact, even under pressure. True healing is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of inner order. Stability comes from knowing, not proving. Enduring faith is quiet and confident. It does not depend on visible confirmation. It rests in alignment. What God is doing now is establishing this foundation. You are not being asked to strive harder. You are being invited to allow truth to settle deeply. This is how healing lasts. When the subconscious agrees with divine truth, the whole life follows.